welcome back to another episode of Tinfoil Hat. Tinfoil Hat.
Tinfoil Hat.
Come with me into the waters of conspiracy with Sam Tripoli.
Sam Tripoli.
Sam Tripoli.
Sam Tripoli.
Mr. Sam Tripoli. With my friend Ryan Davis.
Hi, Ryan.
We're the first gay couple of conspiracy theories.
I think it's beautiful, Mayor.
Hold up there, partner. Say that again.
It's some mystical, deep, dark realm, crazy shit.
Wake up, Aaron. There's reptile people everywhere.
Hey man, where's the truth there, dog?
Oh, what the fuck are you guys even talking about?
Are you ready to get your mind blown?
Revolution will be podcasted.
Yeah, and welcome to Tinfoil Hat. We got an exciting show for you. As you can see, Off the Grid is not here. Ryan is actually now working. He's working today. He could not make it, so we decided to I'll bring in my co-host because it's a very fun and interesting. Oh, you motherfucker! There we go. Bam. We have a very interesting show today. Joining me from the Sharp Tongue podcast and hilarious, she's been on before and she's here again. Please welcome my good friend, Jessimae Peluso.
Hello, Sam Tripoli.
Jessimae, where are you going to be? You got any dates coming out?
Oh, I'm going to be in my bed later on tonight, catching up on sleep.
Yes.
I'm going to be at the Bellevue Parlor Live, May 24th, 25th, and 26th.
So do you have that you have a couple weeks off?
I do. It's so
You've
exciting.
earned it.
Yeah.
You've earned it. You
I
go
was on the road
hard
for
in
like
the paint.
a month.
You go hard in
I
the
go
paint.
hard. I do.
It's this weird thing between like wanting to make money. Like ultimately comedians, we are lazy.
Yeah.
Like
At
we
heart.
all want to be the I mean, at the end of the day, we really just want to be the Kardashians. We just want to people take pictures of
Yeah.
us, and they pay us just to show up, and
Remember-
we don't gotta do jack shit.
Diddy had that guy with the umbrella.
Yeah, that's what you
I
want.
just want like a dude that holds an umbrella for me to protect my skin. My
I
sensitive
respect that.
skin. Yeah.
That's some baller status,
Yeah.
guys. June 1st, tickets are moving. June 1st, it is the Tinfoil Hat Comedy Night, presented by Live Nation at Cobb's Comedy Club in San Francisco. You've heard how it's going, dude. The tickets are moving. The club's very excited. We have one show June 1st at Cobb's and then June 2nd at the Punchline in Sacramento. You guys know the drill. We're going hard in the paint. Comedy, conspiracies. Eddie Bravo, Trez Mela, Off the Grid Ryan, myself, and we're doing the competition. Whoever brings the most people gets a private show backstage. You get to smoke weed with Eddie Bravo, do a podcast, and people are hitting us up about going in some limo to some strip bar, weed bar.
That sounds suspect.
Yeah. It either sounds suspect or the greatest idea ever.
Yeah, suspect can be wonderful.
Yeah.
I want to go.
So that's what it is. And I want to get into weed with our experts today because I'm not a weed person. I know you are.
That shocks me about you. You just look. You have like the face of one.
I do. I was a go fast guy,
Like
not a
weed
slow
shirt.
dude.
Yeah.
So go to Cobb's. Get the tickets now. Bring your friends. Whoever brings the most people gets to join us in the podcast and maybe go to a weed strip bar. So let's get into it. I'm very excited about today's episode. I mean, obviously, you've heard my opinion on the drug war, rehabs, all that stuff. I think the drug war is a poor people's crime. I think throwing poor people in jail for doing drugs. I mean, like, how long did we get told reefer madness and all that stuff that if you did drugs, you smoked weed, you were going to burn in hell? And then, like, it was all a lie. And we knew it was a lie, but we still put up with it. What we're dealing with today is an opiate addiction problem, and my friends here, one of my friends for about 10 years and his lovely doctor friend, they are in part of this new rehab movement that's actually using cannabis oil to deal with opiate addiction. So join us from the High Sobriety Rehab Center, my good friend Justin Hodak and Dr. Sherry Yafai. Did I nail it?
What's
You
up,
got it.
Sam? How are you?
That is the scariest part of the whole show. It's like,
Make sure
am I
you get
gonna
the name
fuck
right.
that name up?
Yafai.
Yeah.
That is the best announcement I've ever gotten in my
Thank you guys so much, Doc, for
Thanks
coming
for
on.
having us.
Justin, you and I have been friends for a very long time. We've gone through some highs, we've gone through some lows, but it seems like you found something pretty cool.
I did.
You know, I mean, you know what's so cool about this is like you're dealing in a rehab and you're dealing with people who've gone through some crazy shit. And I want to kind of get into the history of opiates, but it's like good to see you landed on something so cool and you're very passionate about it, man. Can you guys tell us a little bit about the High Sobriety Rehab Center?
Absolutely, bro. So High Sobriety is... We're looking for alternative ways to fight the opioid epidemic, okay? So High Sobriety functions as the first in the country cannabis inclusive treatment program, okay? So, you know, basically it's a 90-day program, and what we've coupled with Dr. Yafai, who basically we're teaching people to use cannabinoids as a medication to get these kids off these big farm drugs like Suboxone and Subutex and things like that. Because what happens is, you know, a lot of these kids, they get prescribed Suboxone, right, which is an opiate blocker. So, and what do? We give the good little addict a prescription.
It's just
what do you think?
It's fucking
Well,
mind-blowing.
and here's the thing. What do you think happens? After 3 days, he's trying to pop it to see if he can get high. He's calling the doctor. He's like, "Doc, I'm out of subs." The doctor goes, "Well, fuck. Sorry, I'm not going to jeopardize my medical license by giving you a new prescription. You're going to have to rough it." So what do you think they do? They run right back out there. They stick a needle in their arm and, you know, hopefully they make it through. But most of them, a lot of them, they die, right? Now, here's the thing is moving it towards the cannabinoids, right?
What is a cannabinoid?
Cannabinoids is a nice way of saying. There's such a stigma around the word medical marijuana, so we use the word.
Why is there a stigma?
Because you think
With who?
It's
Your
reefer
grandma?
madness.
That's exactly what
you're,
it is.
You're a stoner. You're sitting at home. You're not going to do shit. You're
Right.
a pothead.
That's exactly it, and that's the way a lot of people think. So we have to change. We have to change the paradigm. We have to change the way that people look at it. We have to change and start teaching these people to use it as a medication to treat the anxiety, depression, PTSD. You know, and the concept is not to get people loaded; it's to get them to a state of mind where they can function.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So we don't have people there all day who are high as a kite. We have people who are functional. We have people who can deal with their anger issues and their frustration and their embarrassment of all their addiction, and who can tolerate that enough to go into therapy, and who can make it to the next level and make it out of therapy and make it back into their lives. So that's the best part, is that they're
Right.
not sitting around high as a kite all
Right.
day.
Well, and that's the thing in the treatment aspect. It's like, you know, you have the treatment, you know, you have the one-on-one therapy, you have group therapy, you know, basically life-building skills to get these people. But what do you think's happening how are they treating the depression? With a pharmaceutical medication? How are they treating the anxiety with a pharmaceutical medication? Just so they can get through treatment. Just so they can function on a human level. So we want to take it away, not only from getting these people on these pharmaceutical medications, which they more and more get addicted to, a lot of them. Anyways, I'm not saying all of them. I'm saying some of them.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? And getting them on something that's more natural. You know, we don't smoke weed at our facility. We just don't do it. As a medical doctor,
Yeah.
she can't, you know, have
One
anybody
of the things I
smoke
said, I was
anything.
like, you know, smoking is not something that I usually tell people to do. I don't tell you to smoke cigarettes. I don't tell you to vape. I don't tell you to do any of that. But taking that into consideration, we still think that you are going to get the best parts of it without any of the bad parts.
Yeah.
Right. And I never seen somebody run out of cannabis and go hold up a liquor store.
Right.
I've
That's true.
never
Oh,
seen it happen.
maybe a grilled cheese
right?
restaurant.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, let's get in.
Give me the grilled cheese.
We are in an epidemic right now.
Yes.
I mean, America. We're in the midst of an incredible drug overdose and opiate crisis epidemic. I mean, a new report says that like synthetic opiates now are 46% of all opiate-related overdose.
Yeah.
Like fentanyl, right?
Yeah.
Is that what we're
That's
talking about?
crazy.
Where did
Fentanyl's big.
fentanyl come from? Like,
Oh,
this
we've always
is
had
like
it.
Has it?
Oh, yeah. We've had fentanyl for ages. We used to actually use naloxone for regular treatment for pain. I mean, there's all these things that we've been using all over the place, and now it's just leaking out into the general public.
It's
and
not
people are-
heroin.
Well, it's kind
It's
of
a
like
synthetic,
heroin.
isn't it? Like a
It's a
lighter.
synthetic
Like if you think of it, here I'll
hybrid.
rattle off like
Heroin light.
a bunch of them.
Yeah.
So you have
Like Bud Light, Heroin Light.
Yeah.
Norco, hydrocodone, morphine, Vicodin, Percocet, oxycodone,
OxyContin.
Dilaudid,
Let's not forget one of the
OxyContin.
favorites.
You've got fentanyl. You've got fentanyl patches. You've got fentanyl lollipops. You've got
Lollipops?
Lollipops.
That's some bullshit.
Right.
No, but I'll tell you, it's really
Who are they
good
giving these fucking lollipops
to our
to?
cancer patients.
To
So-
cancer patients.
Yeah, so the lollipops actually are really good for our cancer patients.
I just imagine a kid sucking on one of them lollipops.
Right.
Oh, and they will.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to get into the wrong hands.
Well,
and
it's
then
what
we're gonna be
Starbucks
screwed.
does with their fruity drink. You ever go to Starbucks and you're behind like a bunch of 10-year-olds ordering
Ordering
like,
lattes
Yes.
Right.
with sugar and cream.
I'd like
what
the
are you
vanilla
doing?
bean icy thing.
and it's
Why do you need to pick me up?
Yeah.
All you have to do is like
You're
write in your
10.
diary. Yeah, you're 10. You haven't even menstruated yet.
Yeah.
Like, have some respect.
some fucking respect.
What-
But it's hook 'em young, dude.
It is hook 'em young.
And by the way, with Starbucks and the racist stuff, I'm going to boycott Coffee Bean. That's what I'm going to do.
Boycott coffee
Yeah,
bean?
Starbucks is too good at coffee. I can't fucking do that. They get so pissed when I mention Starbucks on this podcast because it's a conspiracy podcast, and there's so much shady shit with Starbucks.
Is there? Is that what's going
Oh
on?
yeah, they're like, you see this? This is all crazy shit. It's just like, and yeah, but
Is
it's
this like
good coffee.
Illuminati stuff right there?
Fuck
Yeah.
Coffee Bean. So heroin. Let's get into the early parts of heroin. In 1898, heroin was first produced commercially by Bayer Company. I mean, that's crazy, right?
Is that like the snake oil peddler kind of a guy?
Probably,
Yeah.
dude. I mean,
I got the
1898.
elixir that'll fix everything.
Bayer's the maker of aspirin.
Bayer's
Oh,
the maker
Bayer.
of-
I thought you
That
said Bayer.
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 Oh,
B-A-Y-E-R.
Bayer. Okay,
Bayer.
now I'm
The
I'm
aspirin
with you,
people-
dog.
The aspirin people.
I thought you
Did
meant some
heroin
bear
commercially?
fucking.
who just bought Monsanto. So
Oh,
that's
great.
like, yeah,
Jesus.
right?
How
That's
is that
like
even like legal that can happen?
That's like the Death Star or Darth Vader buying like the Cobra Kai. It's
no,
like,
it is. It's
it's like
evil buying evil.
evil buying more
Yeah.
little evil.
Well,
It's the Pope and
Well, it's I was just talking about like there's all this stuff about the opioid epidemic and like how medical cannabis is not good and da 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 da. Like there was this whole thing with ASAM about the addiction studies of medication. That's like Suboxone's good, and I want them to come out in NASCAR jackets and just see who they're sponsored by.
Exactly.
Sponsored by Vivitrol. Sponsored by Suboxone.
Coca-Cola.
Coca-Cola.
even.
Yeah,
Like,
it's
Well,
like.
here's the craziest part. The FDA is now approving Epidiolex, which is basically CBD. We already have on the market synthetic THC. It's called Marinol. You can prescribe it in the hospital. You can prescribe it as an outpatient. So now we have 2 FDA-approved drugs, right? CBD and THC based, and yet somehow marijuana is the devil. Right?
And those two things make up marijuana.
Exactly.
CBD is just the non-psycho
It's
reaction.
like saying, I don't drink caffeine and I don't drink sugar, but you can give me a delicious latte.
Yeah, it's
I
so
will take that.
dumb. It's
Going
so
back to
dumb.
coffee analysis. Yeah.
It is. It's all about being able to.
Well, now it's being able to buy
Make
2
it.
pills
It's-
instead of just 1 pill. So now your insurance company's going to get dinged for this bill,
Yes.
but then we've got to couple it with this pill. So it's a separate. It just makes no sense.
And the crazy part about it is that we're talking about companies that have to do with the health of Americans.
Yes.
And their first priority is not the health of the American, but how can they make money? How can they market
I mean,
it?
That's
How
it.
can
All
they-
marketing
Always.
and money.
Goldman Sachs just came out today. They basically, an internal memo got out that basically said it's like, yeah, curing people would be great. That sounds great, but it's shitty for the bottom line.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
and that's something like people don't understand. Like, especially in the conspiracy world, we always talk about all the time is that like the people at the highest levels don't look at us as people. They look at us in binary code, basically.
Yeah, no, they do.
Zeros and ones, man.
Yeah.
And
That's
like
it.
it's all about profits
and your
stuff
income
like
and where
that.
your bracket falls and what they can get from you.
One of the big things at High Sobriety is if you keep going back to the same rehab program and you keep failing, you keep flunking out of rehab, why do you keep going back to the same place? Why do you think you're going to have a different result? Like, why are we not figuring out that there
Changing it.
needs to be a change? And it's because it's so lucrative. We were having this discussion on the way over here. Rehab and detox make so much money for the insurance companies that they're like, why would we change this?
Now,
Well,
now
not
the
even for
question
the
now-
insurance.
For- For these
it's like-
detox groups.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But why don't the insurance get lit up and they got to pay this out, and they're like, why don't they just sit there and be like, okay, this is some bullshit right there.
Let's
like
fix
Goldman
the problem.
Sachs, right?
Yeah.
The big crash of 2008 was based on the fact that Goldman Sachs put together a real estate portfolio in which they purposely made it so it was going to fail. And then they got all of their investors to basically invest into this portfolio they knew was going to crash, and they bought insurance on it. Like, how does
It's like the
that-
housing crisis.
Here's the
This
thing.
is exactly what happened with the housing crisis.
Let me explain to you. So the insurance
that's what it
companies,
was about.
Yeah.
the insurance companies are the devil. I mean, you have to fight them tooth and nail just to get these kids approved for detox and residential treatment. And whether or not they come back in, if they come back in a second time, they still want to fight it tooth and nail. Well, the kid's not getting it. The kid's not getting it. It's like, we're giving him all the tools. What happens, though, is these medications that these doctors put them on continue to cause this effect where they end up relapsing, right? They end up relapsing, and they still need help. They still need help. They still need to get in a right mindset. And like, the insurance companies are so hard to deal with, man. They are the devil. They don't want to, like, even watching those movies,
the
like
bottom line.
even watching those movies like what Michael Moore would do about where they approved the kid, he was deaf in both ears, but they only approved to fix one ear. The fuck is that? You know what? Hey, you only need to hear out of one, kid. You don't hear out of none now. So if you hear out of one, you're lucky we're doing this. You're lucky.
It's like the EpiPen.
Yeah.
You guys remember this? It just was out in the news, 6 months, a year ago? The EpiPen is now like $700 or $800. This is literally the most life-saving medication.
The most
That
life-saving.
devil. What was that guy's name that they had in?
Was that him or was it
Shkreli or
was that
girl? It was a
no,
girl.
No,
It was a
she-
girl.
Girl
Yeah.
CEO, yeah.
He was the one for
Who was
AIDS
that guy?
medication.
AIDS
That's
medication.
Right. That's right.
But then he ends up going to jail from fraud or money laundering or fraud.
Yeah, there was some sort of financial shadiness.
But he goes to jail not because of he raised the medication prices for AIDS. He goes to jail because he ripped off rich people. He got rich people to invest in stuff
It's
with
just
fuzzy
disgusting.
ass math. And those are the only people.
Yes, man.
Fuzzy math.
That's who goes to
Fuzzy
jail.
math.
I mean, if you look at that whole crisis again to 2008, who goes to jail out of that? Like a couple people, but really the only guy that goes
two.
is Bernie Madoff.
Yeah.
Why? Because he ripped off rich people.
Yep.
Now I was talking to some friends last night.
So fucked up.
Right?
This is the world that we
This
live
is
in.
why I smoke marijuana, by the way. Just all
No,
this
100%.
shit.
And we love you for
So
it.
one of the first big gigs I ever got in Los Angeles was for National Lampoon, and they flew us out to this spring break event, and it was a lot of fun, and it was a crazy time. But shortly after that, National Lampoon kind of crashes and burns because the guy who buys it and all of his investors get busted for money laundering. And one guy ran a $200 million Ponzi scheme, and he's in jail for 75 years.
Yep.
Why? Because he ripped off rich people again.
And that's not even the whole point why he should be in jail.
It's so ridiculous.
Don't even
So
talk to me about the
rich
legal
people are
system.
mad, so they put him in jail. That's the key. You have to get rich people mad to get shit changed.
That's it.
Yeah,
the
that's
truth.
right.
That's really
You
the
really
truth.
just have to get rich people mad.
If you rip off, Haiti.
That's why we're happy to have John Boehner and Chuck Schumer now on the marijuana side, right?
they
Because now
came
we got-
along after a fucking long
We've got
time.
money now. We've got money on our side, and that's
course.
why all these federal approvals are coming down the pipeline.
Why can't the coke people get cocaine legal with all that coke money?
Coke
There's
money.
so
There's
much
long
coke
Coke
money.
money.
Because
Hello?
there's no way you can prove that cocaine is good except in
I can
nasal-
prove it's great. I got some great stories.
You should hear all these scripts that people write on cocaine. Half the movies in Hollywood would
Yeah.
not have been
I
written
got
if
some
nobody was on
great stories
cocaine.
about cocaine. So let's get into because coke was at one point legal. It was prescribed
It was
to
in-
deal with pain and stuff like that.
How we gave
there's a
pilots,
drink.
right? Pilots, nighttime doctors would get cocaine to stay awake all night. Pilots would get cocaine to stay awake on their long flights. That's who would get coke. We still use cocaine in the hospital for nosebleeds. It's
Hold on.
I gotta
what?
go fall in the concrete. I'll be right back.
Right.
I've never done cocaine. I don't even
Hey,
want
do
to try
me a
and sound
favor.
cool.
Hey, hit me right here.
Someone has a nosebleed, so you
But
give
it's
them
not
cocaine?
listen, it's not first
It
line
restricts your
treatment.
blood.
I thought it was the other way
vessels.
around, like you do cocaine and then you get a nosebleed. I was like,
Yeah,
I'm
like
a little
it
confused.
halts the bleeding.
It's not the first go-to by all means. It's not even the second go-to, but it's one of the indications for
I just
cocaine.
wanted to, what course in medical school teaches you that?
The
Like,
most awesome one.
The most awesome one.
It's called medical toxicology.
Okay.
So here's like the one thing that you will learn, okay, and the one ammunition that I always tell people. Number one, the difference between a medication and a drug. What is it?
Legal.
No, it's
The
actually
effects?
dosage. The
Oh.
biggest difference between a medication and a drug
that makes perfect
toxin
sense.
is dosage,
I
right?
learned something
Right.
new
So if
today.
you think about it, so here's a quick example. Coumadin or warfarin, this is the stuff that thins people's
Thins
blood.
people's blood. My
right?
father used to have with his heart
Yeah.
problem. Yeah.
It's
Sounds like characters from Avatar.
Coumadin.
Today we're gonna have Coumadin. I mean, into the
I am
podcast.
Coumadin.
Is it a new Star Wars character?
From The Lion King? Is that where Black Panther's from? Is
Yeah,
Coumadin?
from Coumadin, exactly.
So Coumadin and
Not Coke,
warfarin
just a laugh.
are both actually what rat poison. Rat poison is warfarin. It's called super warfarin or super Coumadin. We basically figured out that if you drug up a rat and it just has like a poor sense of direction, it bonks its head enough times, it basically gets a bleed inside its head and dies. That's how you kill a rat.
That's
Hold on,
terrible.
that's what rat poison does?
That's
It
what rat
doesn't
poison
poison
is.
them? It
Nope.
just makes them cuckoo and they just run into the wall?
No, like they notoriously have like I think a bad sense of like
Yeah, they're rats. They don't
Yeah,
have
they're like the
fucking
drunk
GPS.
mouse.
there's no ways for mice.
Rats are terrible. They're like all lobby. They can't even walk right there. They all have fat asses. They're like, which way am I going? And mice are like,
It's
Can
so
you
weird.
believe being like a female rat? Oh my god, what does my ass look like today?
I gotta go take care of my 300 kids.
300.
So many
They,
kids.
they
So
crank
many
them
nipples.
out.
Yeah.
So 1924,
Okay.
I just want to get into the,
Stay on
the
track.
timeline.
illegal,
Yes.
like, because it goes, like everything was legal at one point. The 1800s sounds amazing.
Right. What was the
Right.
wild? That's why they called it the Wild West,
Yeah.
bro.
Everyone was on
Crazy.
coke and
Prostitution,
heroin.
But-
drugs, shooting people. It's all cool.
Your life expectancy was like 22.
24. Yeah.
Is that so bad? I mean, it was like,
Leave
You
a pretty
peak at
corpse.
16.
Exactly.
right?
Leave a pretty corpse.
Leave a
And then
pretty corpse.
motherfuckers are robbing your grave,
Right?
selling all your goods to
Yeah.
people.
Heaven must have gotten like really ugly over time because it was all young people.
Oh, yeah.
And then they're like, oh, this new batch is just
Yeah.
like they're all 80.
They all look like prunes. When did this
Oh,
prune shift get
suck.
here? We got to go back to having poor.
So opiates become illegal in 1924. The Anti-Heroin Act bans the production and sale of heroin in the United States. So before that, you could just
And you could also get cannabis, by the way. Cannabis was also legal before that time. So I believe the legality, they both became illegal around the same time.
Does cannabis get made? Was it made illegal when they basically outlawed hemp? Was that the all together?
Was it Asslinger?
I heard. I mean,
don't
I don't
remember
know.
that.
Like, I'm paraphrasing here, but I heard like there's something back in like forefather time that had to do with hemp or something. I don't know if it's forefather time or it was like Roosevelt. Like,
Well, we've had a
something
discussion
hemp.
about how Hearst, who owned all the publications, all the newspapers and
Yeah.
magazines, he got hemp outlawed because his friend developed a way to make paper
That was
out
it.
of pulp.
That was
and
it.
that's the whole
Out
reason
of pulp?
out
Yes.
of wood. So they made paper out of wood. So
Yeah.
that's why they outlawed hemp. So you couldn't make paper out of hemp.
So
You
they
know?
just
so
stopped
fucked
growing it.
up.
All goes
So they
back to the
stopped-
money.
All goes back to
All
the
goes
money.
back
Yeah,
to the
because
money.
that's so like from like an ecological standpoint, it's terrible.
It's horrible.
That's
but
where you're losing all your forests, chopping down trees for
That
paper.
is one cool thing about the internet and emailing, and like people are using paper less and less.
Yeah.
So, but the problem is, it's like they're always doing deforestation because of cattle.
Yeah.
And I love how they blame like cow farts on the environment, like everything getting like global warming.
Well, it's
like there's
funny.
really it's cow farts. It's not my dad fucking farting and ripping ass all the time.
It's your dad
Like,
and
there's
cow
way
farts.
more people than there are cows, right? Are there more cows or people?
Well, there are more people, but cow farts have much more like toxicity to their
They're dropping
gas.
H-bombs?
Well,
Yeah,
I mean,
their farts are
blaming cow
fucking
farts on
toxic.
certain thing. I mean, you think a cow fart he'd blame it on his old lady?
Yeah.
Normal people, you know what I mean? That's the
When you drive in the middle of the country and see how big those meat farms are, those cattle farms, you're like, okay, I can understand where there's a giant hole in the atmosphere because of these things that we keep shoving down our
move.
face. Cow farts are so bad, but I just love the smell of cow. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, because you're upstate New York.
I know I'm a little farm girl.
You're like
at
ghetto
heart.
country.
I
That's
am
what we
ghetto
are.
Country.
Ghetto
You're like
country.
hood country,
Hood country?
right?
Ghetto country.
So like gang banging and farms all in the same place.
Oh my god, that's so great.
Right?
Yeah, no, you're right.
So you don't realize how country upstate New York is
It
until
really
you
is.
Until
leave
you
it.
get there.
Yeah, there's
Like,
there's
I had
opiate
a
issues
mullet.
up there.
I had a mullet. I was breakdancing with mullets.
You
That's
were?
very-
Yeah.
Oh,
I
that's
was a
pretty
professional
dope.
breakdancer.
Bum.
That's
Bum,
pretty
bum.
dope. Did you do
Yeah.
a cardboard or
He's
did you
gonna,
just do it right
he's
on
gonna
like?
show us a little.
Can you give us
Dude,
a,
I did.
can you give us a kick
I was
bro?
the worst
And then he's gonna
windmill
do
guy.
step.
The worst, but I was a great top rocker and pop locker.
I can't handle you right now. We're just busting it out in your mom's linoleum.
We went to the Maple Leaf Festival. You ever go to the Maple Leaf Festival?
That's
I
funny.
can't handle you, Tripoli. We're cut from the same cloth.
In 1970, now this is, I believe, Nixon. I believe is 1970. Is that Nixon?
Nixon.
Was it Assinger before? I feel like Assinger had a moment before Nixon, but what's this Nixon factoid?
Well, that's when the Controlled Substance Act becomes law, and it basically schedules drugs, and based on the potential for
And-
abuse, and heroin is a Schedule 1 drug, the same as mushrooms.
Right. And the same as cannabinoids.
and
Marijuana
marijuana is
is
the
it's
same
got-
classification.
So let's talk
as
about.
heroin.
Wait. I have something I want to add to that. So let's talk about that. So, in order to get off that, says heroin's bad, right? Tricky Dick. Heroin's bad. So let's bring these vets back from Vietnam
Oh,
and
God.
put them on methadone. Let's get them on methadone because we can regulate that. We can tax that. We can make money on that. And now we're getting them hooked on a different substance that we control because there's a stigma
So
on
that's,
heroin.
Methadone?
It's another.
Methadone, is that
it's
like
another-
synthetic heroin? Or what is
they're
that?
all considered narcotics. So
Right.
they're all falling on the same level here. It's just a matter of like how much, how potent it is. Remember dosage, right?
Right.
So dosage, like how you're giving it to people. So heroin you can inject. Methadone is mainly a pill.
And let's just talk about the addictive quality of methadone for a second. Heroin, these guys get sick, they puke on themselves, they shit on themselves for 3-5 days. It's very painful. Methadone gets in your bones.
Yeah.
I mean, getting them off the methadone is harder than getting them off the heroin. And now we've got them on something that's been regulated by the government to help our vets and to help our people that you cannot get these guys off of very safely.
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable. It's so foul.
I've been to the VA, the hospital, and my ex was in the war, and he was a vet. The treatment they get
It's horrible.
The amount of pills they put him on, he was
yeah.
on like, they put him on like 7 pills.
Yeah.
And initially they were like, "Well, take 3," and then we looked up all the side effects. I mean, it was literally a potpourri of bullshit.
Yeah.
And then he's like, "I'm starting to have side effects." They fucking added 2 more, and then another one.
Yeah. So the hardest part about medicine right now is that we have so much, and everybody wants to take a pill to fix it.
Right.
Right.
It's
So
like Netflix. There's too much to
Right.
watch. It's like
So,
the same thing with medication.
People walk in and they like, fix me. Give me a pill to fix my problems, right? Be it depression, be it PTSD, be it anxiety, be it social issues, whatever it is, they want to fix. And what do they want to fix in the form of a pill? And so we're in this really crazy time in medicine and in our country's era where we now have a pain scale that people report and that doctors are obliged to respond to, and not just respond to, but actually treat you for. So if you walk in,
Pain scale?
yeah. So if
Yeah.
you
So I have
walk
to-
in,
0 to 10.
you have to say, I actually have to ask you, or else I won't get paid,
Right.
And I have to document what your pain scale is on a
on the scale of 0 to 10, 10 being the worst pain you've ever had, what is your pain?
So that's like a legitimate science in that world, because it feels like just a question that doesn't really
Right.
matter.
Now let me ask you a question.
It
All
could
right.
get abused really easy, right?
Of course.
Yeah.
And that's what we found.
That's what we're getting at.
And I think in the last month, they have actually finally realized it's like a Yelp score. Like, don't Yelp. Like, I don't want your Yelp in my office, right? They've actually finally realized that that's not helpful. It is not helpful to your medical care for you to say, oh, I've got a 10 out of 10. I need Norco, or I need Percocet, or I need Oxy. That's not helpful.
The drug addicts will come in. Being a good drug addict, I mean, what's your pain scale?
1,000.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, that's what a drug
What do you
addict's
want?
gonna
A
say.
Benadryl or an oxycodone?
I mean,
What do
you're
you
gonna
want?
You want the
Right.
maximum
Right.
thing. I want to go out. I want balls deep medicine
Right.
right
That's it.
now.
Right.
And the fucked up thing is that all this medicine, it's just a Band-Aid. It's a temporary thing.
100%.
Well, and that's the thing, and I wanted to touch on too, is we don't treat the
source.
problem. We don't
Yeah.
treat the source, even with pain management, right?
Yeah.
They never actually treat the pain. They put a buffer on top of the pain. So these guys are like, oh, I don't feel shit in my shoulder right now. I'm going to go work out, or I'm going to go, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And what do you think happens?
You
They
just
tear
re-injure
it more.
Yeah.
They tear it more.
father, my whole life, I witnessed a ton of seizures. I mean, and I always think it affected like my stand up because I was always a lot darker. I made fun of very dark subjects. I still do, and I think it's because
Your dad had seizures?
Oh yeah, I'd see it all the time, and I knew when it was coming. It was just so rough, and and there's just not a lot you can do. But what would happen was my father would get on these drugs for his epilepsy, and it would control it. And then you start thinking, I don't need it anymore. I haven't had this. I'm not going to say the comic that we see this a lot with this particular comic out there who's always like that. He gets, he gets in a good place and then he starts thinking he doesn't need it anymore. And then he weans himself. My dad would do that too. He'd wean himself off this thing. And then he would start having seizures again.
That's where you get issues when patients try to self-medicate in the form of weaning themselves off. I've lost friends to that.
Yeah.
Where they think they can nitrate down on their own.
Well, and we're not saying that people don't legitimately need medication for certain disorders. Like if you're
100%.
bipolar, please take your bipolar medication. Like if you have something going on that you actually need medication, please. But there's just so much. This system is being so abused, and it's being not just abused by people, the consumer. It's being abused by the pharmaceutical companies who are making these addictive substances, knowing what the outcome
Well,
is
you have a
gonna be.
product you can make money off of. When you look at the medical industry, and if you divide it between like narcotics and say like mental health professionals,
Right.
what's going to make more money? Because a mental health professional is providing therapy. That's not really a tangible product.
And
So
it takes time.
It takes a lot of time.
It takes the time and a lot of energy.
Yeah, a lot of effort and energy, and that's, in my opinion, what's lacking in this country is there's a huge lack of importance put on mental health, because we've got these people that are running around that are all dosed the fuck up, teenagers that don't learn how to deal with their issues. Everybody's fucking numb.
Everyone wants Ritalin.
Everyone wants
I need
Ritalin. They're all
Ritalin.
numb. No one knows how to deal with the shit on the inside.
Yeah.
Be happy. You should be happy. You shouldn't be fucking happy all the time.
Right.
Agreed.
Well, I was a Ritalin baby, and that's what set it off. Right? I was a Ritalin baby. So there's nothing worse than a kid that's just tweaked out on the monkey bars. And you want to know what? Like, that's what developed into my addiction with crystal meth and cocaine.
Really?
Because I didn't realize it until like after I got
dude.
sober.
They
Like
get
what
you-
there was, that feeling. I'm like, wait, this feeling is kind of familiar, and I really, really like it. There's
So were
something
you always an addict?
I've always been.
Oh,
an addict.
dude.
Wow.
Oh man, I mean,
That's
like even
fucking
when I
crazy.
get, I'm sober, but when I would get the first time I got sober, my addiction would go into other things. Like I started buying every domain name I could find on GoDaddy.
Right.
I bought like 200,000 domain names. I was just like, I could use that. I'll use that. And I'm just addicted to buying domain
Gonna take
names.
our
Like
trip
that's
to
how
the
it
dark
goes.
side.
dude.
Oh my God, I'm losing it.
I think what it comes down to real quick is, when we talk about mental health, because I mean, I've been in 12-step programs constantly. And, it's like you hear people say that they're like sponsors say, no, you got to get off that drug. And it's like, it comes down to, are you trying to relieve or are you trying to escape? Do you know what I'm saying?
Right. So our whole philosophy is we're using cannabis to medicate you, not to get you high.
Right.
Okay. So if you're getting high with the medication, I mean, we have one guy right now who's like, hey, listen, I started feeling the effects of life. They started to feel high a little bit. We need to dose down. And I'm like, great, let's dose down. We don't need to keep you at that same level for the rest of your life. Our goal is to get you off. Well, listen, that in an ideal world, you can use this for a pleasure issue, right? At some point in the day, we have to say, like, you're only 25, you're allowed to have pleasure, right? Like, but you just need to understand that pleasure association doesn't mean that you are out of your mind, fucked up.
And that's the most beautiful thing about
totally.
cannabis.
This is
the levels of it.
You could totally.
There's levels. Well, and
I love that you just said fuck. I've been throwing f-bombs left and right.
Oh no,
Did it feel good? Did it feel good? Let it out. You want to get another one out?
Let the fucks fly.
Welcome to the land of the wild things.
It's really very nice.
You want to toss another one out there?
Yeah, drop.
You know,
another
part of
F-bomb.
our program
Keep
is
your
that
teeth white.
before, like, they have to do rehab and treatment. They have to do 30 days of abstinence. Like, we need to detox them and get them off everything, so we get a baseline of assessment of exactly who we're dealing with.
We need your
what
mind
they're
clear.
about. We need your mind clear before we can even move you over to the high sobriety track.
Yeah.
And that's the super important part. So, you know, with our treatment center, we'll detox them. You know, and
that's
get
the first
them,
thing when they come in.
Yeah, we got to detox them and get them into treatment for the next. And, you know, it's medicated. Some of it's medicated assisted. We got to get them on something and titrate them lower and lower and do it comfortable so they don't withdraw.
I said nitrate. Titrate.
Titrate,
Yeah.
exactly.
What I want to talk about is, like, you brought up something about you being on Ritalin very early. I believe that these drug companies are so sinister. They play this long game. And it's again what we talked about with Starbucks and the kids with the frappes and all that stuff. They get them hooked early. I listen, man. I think you get kids hooked on the drugs early. They're popping pills early. Then when they get older, it's not a big thing to be, oh yeah, I'll take 5 more. I don't even care. I actually believe, because what we find is, in particular with, like, young boys are medicated early, and correct me if I'm wrong, Doc, but as we get older, women tend to get more and more medicated, and I don't know, I have my
issues
theories.
change. Yeah, I mean, the issues of life change for boys and girls, right?
Well, I do believe that it becomes something where, and I think it's done on purpose, which is to sell girls this idealistic view of what adulthood is, this, like, Snow White, this, like, knight in shining.
I mean, listen, there's porn addiction nowadays, right? And
I'll get into that.
But
we treat these girls, we make girls believe in this very idealistic world.
Everything should be perfect. You should always be happy. And if you're not, take all this shit.
So when you get into adulthood and it's not real at all.
Yeah.
And it's not that. It fractures you.
And then you need a fucking pill for the fracture.
Yes.
And that's what I think this social justice warrior shit is too.
Yeah.
Teach these kids this idealistic super bullshit. Now listen, man, all of us getting along, all that stuff, I think we all agree on that. But this notion of, like, you have to fight words and this, and teaching idealism, and that you can apply that to the world. And then you get to the real world and you realize none of that exists. It fractures you. And now you got to get on these drugs.
Yeah, because
and I
you
think
can't
it's
handle
done
it.
on purpose.
Oh, I totally agree.
Because fractured people are easier to control.
And I think that this whole concept that every kid has ADHD, sorry, not every kid has ADHD. Some kids just need to go out and play. I mean, the fact that we don't have real physical exercise. Remember PE back when we were kids?
Yes, it was a whole hour.
It was a whole hour every single day.
Yep,
outside.
climbing stuff.
We don't do that anymore for kids. Do you get it? Like, can you imagine 8 hours a day as a 7-year-old?
Especially young boys are, I mean, if we go back to caveman days, it's about exploring.
Yeah, you got to crash shit. You got to break shit.
You got to go out into the forest, feel how the world works.
Yeah,
cut your knees, danger.
I'll do it even more simple than that. You just got to get up and move.
Yeah.
Right.
They had us climbing ropes.
Sit in a seat
Yeah,
for
when I was
8
like
hours
8.
a day. Right. I mean,
you had
real
to move.
simple stuff. You had to move.
You know.
And it wasn't like, you know, the joke of the 80s, like the fat kid in gym class, like, haha, whatever. But it's the idea of getting up and moving. And it all kind of, it tumbles into making this bigger and bigger tumbleweed, right?
Well, it's so funny that you were saying the kids, they don't do PE anymore. Like, the one thing that makes, and what do they tell adults to do? If you want to feel better,
the gym.
exercise. You know what I mean? Like, where is this all?
Yeah.
Like, it's just doesn't make
So now
any
you want me to
sense.
exercise.
So now we got these
So now I
kids
can
thinking that everything's supposed to be perfect and you're not supposed to move around. Then they get back out into the world and they find out that everything is not perfect and you're supposed to move
And
around.
you're probably going to have to run at some point.
Well,
in your
exactly.
day. From danger.
From danger.
Yeah.
Yes.
But there's a guy in the parking lot who was taught that sex is terrible and he's only jerking off in a jacket near the subway.
Yeah.
Because you also got that. Because all we do in this country is we pretend that everything is fine. And if you want to be happy, we have a fucking pill for it.
Yes.
You know,
And
and
we
these
talk
people
about
come
that.
into these schools and they shoot up the schools and they're like, run! And they're like, we don't know how! Like,
Yeah.
you know, it's like,
Well,
Yeah.
You know,
a
it's
lot
like-
of it is like that's somebody put out this this thing today about like we have a problem with misogyny and online guys are going crazy, and it's just like there's way more deeper shit to that. Like all these guys shooting, there's always common things. One is that they're all on antidepressants.
They're all on antidepressants.
They all play
Issues.
these video games,
Yep.
these super violent. And don't tell me there's no correlation between somebody doing Doom walking down, pegging off monsters in a hallway, walking through this fucking hallway of school, pegging off fucking people who bully
Yeah.
them.
Because we all know people in our immediate environments who play those video games, and we're all like, we're not hanging out with them tonight, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
like, it's real simple. We're not hanging out with the people who are in their basement every night playing those video games.
And some people can do that, but it's a certain type of person that gets stuck in this world who has a mentality that's not able to differentiate between what's going on and also isn't getting the nurture that they need. I mean, look at all those people. Did any one of those guys who've shot up a club or a school look like somebody who was loved?
No.
No.
They're all outsiders. And you know what, dude? I mean, this is tinfoil hat. We go kind of deep on this shit. You know, we just saw there's some stuff with like the government basically has some mind control shit. Now, if you throw somebody on like who knows what these drugs, these antidepressants do to your brain? Maybe they open you up to these kind of like messages that are coming through the video game. I know it sounds crazy, but it's like we've seen this over and over again, these same kind of things and then there's all these connections to like the CIA and FBI. Like every one of these shooters had met up with the FBI or the CIA like 2 or 3 months before it happens. Like every one of them, there's a connection to it. So it's like all these weird things are coming together. So how do we stop this? Are you going to tell me we're going to stop violence in movies and video games, $1 billion industry, drugs and the pharmaceutical companies, $1 billion industry, gun sales,
I mean,
$1
they're
billion
in the White
industry,
House.
You
The
know?
NRA literally has an office in the
That's
White
why
House.
I said I want to see the politicians with the NASCAR jackets. To
But
see
you know,
who they're
seriously.
endorsed
I
by.
just want to say something real quick about the NRA and all that stuff, and I don't want to get anybody weirded out. But just know that the media who paints these NRA and all these people as these bad guys, these are the same media that is complicit in lying to you about weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, who are the mouthpiece of these military-industrial complex that is right now either participating actively in or is supplying weapons to two of the biggest humanitarian crises of all time, which is Yemen and Syria.
The media is the worst.
So you just got to realize that, like, before you like start really like demonizing people, you just really got to really understand who's telling you these sides of these stories, because really bad shit's going on in the rest of the world. And when you look at our country, and we'll get back to this real quick, but when you look at our country, our military, more than any other military in the world, and we look at all these other countries that like they've taken away guns from everybody, their militaries are not used as the stormtroopers for these very dark forces, bankers, big pharmaceuticals. You know, when we find like fucking, a great place to grow opium, or we find like stuff to make your phone in a mountain in Afghanistan that's worth trillions of dollars. Like our military is used by those companies to go in and kick in doors and blaze 4-4s. And it's like, it's very like, you have to really take a look. It's such a bigger game than all that shit. And that's all I just want everybody like to really take a look at. Like the people who are telling you about all this shit about guns, they're the same ones that are selling you on just straight up war crimes.
Yeah.
And the hardest part is they're using people, right? They're using our sons, our loved ones, our husbands, our children to go and
Fight their
wars. Exactly. And then they come home and
there's no care for them.
And then there's no care for them.
No care. And they're strung out on drugs just to treat the PTSD because what they saw over there wasn't, because they weren't running around in school.
I'll tell you.
It wasn't.
I'll tell you a story about an ER patient I had one day who is this war vet who comes in, and he was just done. Like he was done. He was probably 35 or 40 and just couldn't handle life anymore. And the more I talked to him, the sadder I got, the more upset I got about, God, how can we let you go fight our fight? And it may or may not be our fight, but go fight for us and then have you come back.
Sign up to defend your country.
Right. And then have you come back. And he's like, everybody on my team is dead already. And it's not because they died in the war. It's because they come home and they commit suicide. Every single one of them in my unit is dead.
22 a day.
Yeah. And it's just one of those things where we're like, it doesn't take that much. It doesn't take that much to reach out across the way and say, hey, thanks. I appreciate you. Thank you for still being alive. I still want to see you alive 10 years
Any guy I
from now.
see in a hat, I thank him. And with the hat
And
that says
I
he's a
see him in the
veteran,
airport, I do that.
I thank
And
him.
it has
I just
nothing to
thank
do with
him.
our politics
Right.
or our gun policy. It
Most
has
people join the military because they want to protect the country.
Yeah, but
And
the
then-
truth of the matter is we haven't protected our country since World War II. Like, let's be clear.
I
Like,
mean,
we
or
haven't
they're-
protected our country since
they're going
World
to
War
do it
II.
to get themselves educated. They're going to for their family. They're going to make money. I mean, these
there's a
these
lot of,
people are
like-
going into the military for a reason, and the reason is usually very pure.
They
It's
want a
not
brighter
a
future
malicious.
themselves.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. They're looking for a greater future for themselves, for their children, for their parents, for what have you.
But then the military also targets, people who are underprivileged.
Oh yeah.
Oh, so here's
100%.
the best part. You ready for this one? Wait. So when they had the government shutdown, do you know who the first people to not get paid are?
The military.
The
guys.
fucking grunts.
Yeah.
The military. The bottom of the barrel. Making
dude.
18 grand a year.
I want to go to this.
They're the ones that aren't getting paid first.
Yeah. Listen.
Oh my God, I flipped out when I fucking heard that.
Yeah.
The truth of the matter
crazy.
is, this is a long game being played by these people. Think about
Yeah.
this, right? The long, and I want to get into your
Yeah.
thoughts on this because I believe the opiate epidemic right now is eerily similar to the crack epidemic of the 80s. And that was,
Of course.
and it was wrong when it happened. And when they went after the ghettos and
Yep.
the black youth, and they flooded the ghettos with first what they do. It's the same game plan.
Incarcerated everybody.
What is it's demonize them in the media.
Yeah.
So you
100%.
demonize young
Making
black
them-
youth as criminals and
Yep.
all that stuff.
Yeah.
Then you pull all the jobs out. Then you flood the area with drugs. And then you take the males out of the household, you throw them in jail, and now the family unit is broken.
It's fractured.
So now let's take a look at the opiate epidemic, okay?
It's completely the opposite. You want to know why?
Hold on. Let's just hear me out, and then you could disagree with me if you want. So we have Clinton comes in 1991. He does free trade, which ships all the jobs out of the country. So then we get Bush comes in. 9/11 happens. We go into Afghanistan. Now we're flooding the suburbs, the farmlands with heroin. Now everybody's hooked on heroin. Now what do we see in the military? Fucking all white guys are racist. All white guys are rapists. All white guys are Trump supporters. They're all fucking alt-right people. And now we've demonized them. There's no jobs. We flooded the fucking everywhere with drugs. And now we're going to see... everybody's going to jail for drugs right now. Everybody's dying or they're going to jail for drugs. And they're getting locked up. And now the poor and middle class white family unit is going to be destroyed. It's eerily similar. And then we find out that Obama, I don't know if you heard about this, it's amazing how we really let Obama, and everyone's like, America's racist. I'm like, hey man, we look at a black president and we refuse to look at any of his warts because we think he's the black president and he was the good guy. But if you look at there's something going out right now called Obama Con right now it's called, okay? And that was basically like the Iran-Contra affair when Bush had, they were basically selling crack. They were selling crack in the ghettos, taking that money and funding foreign armies.
That is so fucked.
Well, that was the
now we
Oliver
found out
North, yeah.
that Obama basically pulled the DEA off of investigating whether Hezbollah was selling drugs in America to fund their armies, which is the exact same fucking thing. And I guarantee you, they said it was coke. I guarantee you, if it's Middle East, that's fucking heroin, man. And they pulled that off, and now it's the exact same thing. And that's what they do. They always repeat their fucking game plan over and over again. And that's why I think this shit is a long game being played. And this epidemic is fucking state-sponsored, man. Flood people, get them sick, get them over it, throw them in jail, fucking get dad out of the household and crush it.
So the problem with that theory, though, is that the opioid epidemic doesn't just stick to heroin.
Right.
It's not just the poor. It's not just the whites. It is everywhere. And it's in epidemic proportions. It is killing the most people under the age of 50. It is our number one killer. If you're under 50, you are more likely to die of a narcotic overdose than you are anything else.
Okay.
And you want to know who it's killing the most? Young white males.
That's what that's what I'm saying.
But it's everywhere.
No, I'm not saying that. I mean, there were white people smoking crack. There
Right.
was white people doing coke. There's white people doing all that during the crack epidemic.
Right. But it's not just our poor. It's not just our poor anymore. It's our wealthy, and that's how all of these rehab facilities out in Malibu are working. Listen, they're charging 45 and 60 grand a month.
Well, and here's the funny thing is
private.
now it makes you want to know why, and we'll get into that conversation. I agree with you on this. Is that do you want to know why it's national news now? Because it was attacking young white males, which is fucked up. I mean, you know what I mean? Nobody gave a fuck about crack and the young urban areas back in the 80s.
But also you have to look at the environment, like technologically speaking. The 80s, you didn't have Twitter, you didn't have social media.
Right.
So it is like, I do agree with what you're saying, but it also is kind of easy to throw it like a blanket statement and say people didn't care, cared more here, cared less here.
Right.
We didn't have the ability to
technology.
go
care.
and just be
To
like, take
care,
videos and look
exactly.
at what the fuck is happening.
I remember when I was in college, and I went very early in the 90s, and I remember there was a push to get crack that have the same penalty as cocaine. And I used to laugh at because I didn't understand what they were doing. I'm like, who defends crack? And then I realized why they were doing it. Because crack tend to be a black poor person drug. And like what Clinton did, and this was the Clintons, they made like a nugget of crack to be the same penalty as like a helicopter full of cocaine.
Yeah.
And that's institutional racism.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
nobody wanted to talk about that. So then I'm like, oh, I get it. That's why you're fucking fighting to change it. And that's why I do think, and it's across all boards.
You're right. And I'll tell you, the first time I was in an Uber. I Uber places, of course, right? Everyone does.
Yeah.
So I was in an Uber coming back from a cannabis convention downtown LA. I'll never forget this. And I'm a doctor. Like, this is still really kind of borderline for most physicians to acknowledge that cannabis is a medicine, let alone going to a weed convention in downtown LA. So I'm driving, the driver's driving me back from the LA convention, and I remember him being like, oh, what were you doing downtown? I was like, I was at a cannabis conference, and really quietly, I was at a cannabis conference, and it was a nice young black driver, and he's all like, oh no, I don't touch that stuff. That's how you're gonna get put in jail. I've had family members put in jail. You don't go close to that thing. But you don't ever hear, you don't hear the same thing out of everybody else's mouth. I think there was recently a white comic who was on SNL, who did a whole thing about, marijuana is not a drug. I mean, it's not a illegal drug for me because I'm white. I mean, it's a really scary thing to think that.
Without a doubt, the drug war has been institutional racism. What I'm saying is, I'm seeing the beginning of it to go after poor. Like for me, it was definitely after poor black, in particular, poor black males.
Right.
What I see it now is it's moving in to middle class, and I'm not saying that rich white people don't get affected by that.
Yeah.
I'm saying what are the consequences for them? Yeah. They can clean it up with money, rehab, and get the right lawyer to get out of it. So now we're moving into like poor whites and poor and middle class whites, throwing them in jail, death, taking them out of the family fucking unit, man. We've seen it forever. And what else goes on is that we see that who's the what is his name that he wants to go after people who legalize drugs? Jeff Sessions, right?
Jeff Sessions.
So Jeff Sessions wants to go after marijuana now, and now he's like doing a giant $6 billion boost to fight like the drug war. Here it is again. Like,
he's our Henry Asslinger. That's who he is. He's our
right?
Yeah, he's just a reboot of Henry Asslinger.
And that's the truth is that it's the police and it's the security guards in jails that are fighting against legalization of drugs because their pension's going to go and their budgets are going to go. And that makes me so fucking sad when you have these privatized prisons who are like, oh, dude, if you don't get us, we had that famous county, I think in Indiana. It was like, if you don't get us 300 more inmates, we're closing this shit down. What are we doing here?
Yeah.
It's a business.
Yeah. It's a business.
Incarceration's a business.
Incarceration's a
And
business. Drug addiction's a business.
And
It's just-
keeping people mentally unhealthy, physically unhealthy, and at the mercy of drugs is what keeps the rich rich.
Yes.
Well, and that's what we just want to help people, man. I'm tired
Let's
of
get
seeing
into
this
what you guys
Yeah.
are doing.
Yeah, you
I
know.
want to talk about, and I just really want people to understand like how important it is to get away from this stigma. I think the war on drugs, again, is a poor person's drug. I think everything should be either decriminalized or at least decriminalized.
Yeah.
I think legalized. I can stop doing drugs. I can, and I have. I can't stop being a felon. It's really hard.
And then
You got a
You
felon's
and me
face.
both, sister.
Right? I do look
You
like
have a
a felon.
felon's
Right.
face.
I look like the guy who goes to law school and in jail and helps everybody fight their cases.
You
Right?
look like the guy that I find in my closet that's just been heavily breathing for days.
That's me.
So this is kind of what our shtick is, right? Like, we want to not just help you stop using drugs, right? We actually want to stop having you be a felon. Like, because Justin does a real good shtick on this.
We were just
Take it
talking
away.
about, it's just, the whole. We want to save lives, regardless of how it looks. We catch a lot of shit from, people in the treatment community for what we're doing because it's new. Marijuana's not the way. It's like, you know what, dude? Everything that we've been doing up until now doesn't work. And like in our industry, like there's such an archaic way of thinking, right? They're still on that same old school Hazelden or the Schick. Remember Schick? A 28-day program and 2 one-week follow-ups. You remember seeing that commercial in the 80s? They're still trying to use these models. I mean, granted they have different modalities, but they're so archaic. And I tell them, like, if human beings as a whole had that archaic way of thinking, we'd still be riding horses. In fact, you two wouldn't even have
That
voices.
sounds great. I would love to be quiet on a horse.
Right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
If
You
I
would
could be
love
silent
to
on
be
a
quiet.
horse.
Exactly.
That's the ghetto
what a
country.
dream.
You.
Yeah. So,
And then the other part to it is like we are in this new age of marijuana. Really,
Right.
new age of marijuana. We can now actually separate out every chemical in marijuana.
Right.
And we're now looking at it on a really like microscopic level. And we can say, hey, this part is going to get you high. This part is not going to get you high. And we can even make that mixture.
Is
and
there one that
make
makes you
taste.
not paranoid and not want to masturbate? 'Cause
Yeah.
I need that weed. 'Cause
I need
that's
that one
all
too.
I want to do.
That's
Is
gonna
That's
be
the one I
Mexican
need.
swag.
That's going to be CBD only.
Yeah, you need
really?
CBD.
Because I just like,
CBD.
and I lock the door, like the lizard people, and I
Yeah.
just start fucking
Here's the thing, like from a
hurting myself.
from a treatment aspect, so we're coupling the cannabinoid medication with a full, and we couple it with a treatment program. So people still need the clinical aspect of everything. They need therapy. They need basically a different structure of living, right? Because everybody has systems and dynamics. Like my systems and dynamics today are a lot different than they were when I was coked out
when
in a
you were
hotel.
cooked out
right?
adrenaline on the monkey bars.
Exactly. So like my systems, like my dynamics in the morning is like I wake up, I have my coffee, I go right to the gym, I come home, I take a shower, I go to work, I rinse, wash, repeat.
Right.
Right? For a drug addict, it's like they come to. They don't wake up, they come to. Right? And then maybe they'll throw up on either in a shoe or the person next to them.
Am I terrible that I'm laughing?
No, but it's true. Like, and that's my whole thing. Like,
Must be a
the
comedy
reason, like,
podcast.
I do my job, like, the reason I'm in the admissions position is I can get people, even in their darkest times, to laugh at the behavior.
Yeah.
Like, it's all about finding the humor in the darkest situations.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like they come to, and then they need to, now they're in constant state of fear. Right? Why are they so afraid? Because I'm about to get sick. And I need more drugs pronto. So now I got to figure out a way, whether I need to rob,
That
cheat, lie,
desperation.
or steal,
Oof.
or sell myself.
Ugh.
The incomprehensible demoralization to figure out this next piece,
That's
right?
so sad.
And then they go and they get their $10 because that's all it takes for me to get well. And now I got to call the dude. And now I call the dude, and now I'm waiting for the dude, and I'm waiting for the dude. And I'm waiting for the dude, and I'm waiting for the dude, and I'm waiting for the dude. So I call the dude back, and he's not answering, and now I'm in a panic, and I'm waiting for a dude, and then he pulls around the corner, and now I'm well. And I anesthetize just so much that I don't have to think about this shit until tomorrow morning, right? That's their dynamic.
Oh,
Yeah.
what a
So,
horrible existence.
What a horrible existence.
Dude,
but it's the thing about
it's in your
they're
bones.
they're
Yeah.
comfortable with it because it's their shit. The things that human beings fear the most is change.
Yeah, of course.
Because they think the change is automatically going to be horrible. And I tell the people I'm on the phone with, like, you're in your shit. You know exactly the temperature of your shit, how your shit smells, and it may be shit, but it's your shit and you're comfortable of it.
Yep.
And what I'm here to offer you is a different way. I'm trying to grab your hand and pull you out of the shit tub and tell you know what? It's not as bad as you think. It's going to be a little bit different, but you're going to be clean and you're going to smell a little better.
Yeah, and you're also going to feel and have all these sensations you've been numbing for so long.
But they don't want to, and that's part of the problem.
Part of the problem is they're afraid to. So what we have to offer is, like I said, the first 30 days we put them in treatment, right? They don't even touch the high sobriety track until about day 31, usually. That's average, because we got to detox them. We got to get them into therapy. We got to talk about, there's so much trauma that these people go through just while they're out there.
What's the youngest patient you've had?
I mean, we can't treat anybody under
21
to
25.
No, in the rehab, we can't treat anybody under 18.
So where do those kids go?
They go to certain, like, there's a few good adolescent programs, but this is what, like, I would like to open. There's just so much federal guideline that when it comes to adolescent treatment, that a lot of people in our industry are afraid to do it because there's so much guideline.
Red tape, yeah.
So much red tape when it comes to minors. And what it does is it keeps people away from actually having a facility that treats minors.
What if I'm a parent of a kid who's on opiates? What are the early telltale signs? Are there any indicators that your kid is doing this drug?
Opiates?
Yeah.
I mean, you can pretty much tell with opiates in the beginning because like they nod off, they're itchy,
sleepy.
they're like sleepy,
Yeah.
they do this. You ever
They're
see
in
the
a
movies
fog.
where oh boy, like they scratch an itch that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Their eyes are really low and they'll just.
So it's pretty apparent.
Oh yeah, and it's the
Is
kids
it
who are
just
starting
opiates?
with no benzos.
I mean, can you guys get into like meth?
Oh yeah,
yeah.
we treat
All that
everything. We
stuff.
treat everything, but the thing we're seeing the most of, like most of our clients are opioids, right? And basically, not only do
And
we
alcohol.
well, and that's the thing is like we want to teach them a way of living.
Yeah.
We have to teach them a way of living and really get to the root of the problem and address the trauma. Oprah just did this huge thing on trauma. I'm a victim of trauma. I'm sure everybody at this table can talk about some way of trauma.
Last night on stage.
Me watching him.
Right.
We both experience different levels of trauma.
There's different levels of trauma. There's physical and emotional
No, you're a
abuse. You
killer.
know what I mean? There's sexual abuse. There's so many different levels of trauma that don't get addressed, and it's one of the main reasons that people use substances.
They're
when
masking the
they're
trauma.
masking the trauma.
Right.
I did that for years.
Yep, a lot of
And my
people do.
trauma, like I'm just starting to see a trauma therapist because my trauma has come up and gotten me into some hairy situations.
Yeah.
And like I'm addressing that now. I mean, it's like I didn't really think about looking at, and we need to kill this, like cut it off at the head, right? The cannabis is just another way to get these people on a functioning medication.
Right.
Instead of being something that they're hooked on.
Like Ativan, benzos, sleeping pills. That's the next step that we do. Typically, in most medical facilities, is we throw more medication at
Right.
these kids, right? So when you're talking about like they're coming home with 7, 8, 10 pills, it's normal,
Right.
You need your mood stabilizer, your anti-anxiety medicine, your nighttime medicine, your and then you add on
Incontinence medicine
Right.
because your bladder shut the shit down from all these other fucking
And
pills you're on.
And here's the thing, right? People say,
Something
well,
to
are
poop.
you substituting one drug for another? That's a question we get a lot.
Yes.
What we do is a harm reduction model, dude. And if it keeps a needle out of your arm and it keeps you out of the fucking grave, I don't give a fuck what you call it, dude.
Right.
I'm here to save your goddamn life.
Right.
And you know
And
that
you know what? And anybody who else is like, you need to do it this way because that's not fuck you.
in your old ass model.
Fuck you and your old ass mom. I'm saying it loud. My name's
Let me just say this, dude.
Yeah.
Bill W. thought at the end of the 12 steps that you should do shrooms or acid and have a spiritual experience. And he did it 4 times, and they tried to kick him off the board because they wanted just fucking
Sobriety.
straight sobriety. They didn't think he was like, nah, dude, you gotta fucking break on through and see what the fuck's going on.
Right.
in the world.
I kind of like that.
And they
perspective.
use shrooms now. We're talking about we had an episode earlier. We talked about that these vets coming back from wars,
Right.
they're giving them
Microdosing.
microdoses of
Microdosing is
shrooms.
going to be
Heard
the
about
future
this. Yeah,
of a
it's
lot of
everything.
healing.
It's going to be that and micro penises.
Yeah.
Oh, we'll get into that in 2 seconds.
They're going to go together.
So,
I want a little teeny penis.
cocaine, heroin, meth, pharmaceuticals, they all have a dose that is lethal. You could take it, you could die. Alcohol seems to have the highest.
Alcohol is
right.
actually the most dangerous.
Right?
one. Well, the detox for alcohol
Yes.
is the most dangerous
So
detox.
alcohol
you
is
would-
the only detox that you can die from.
You can die from.
What's her face died from that, right? The singer. What's her
Whitney
face?
Houston?
the older
No. Amy Winehouse.
Oh, yeah.
Amy Winehouse.
That's what they say. She died.
Alcohol detox is the most dangerous.
Alcohol detox
Followed
also,
only by benzos. You would think that it would be heroin,
Right.
but it's like it's not. It's like heroin
Heroin,
has
you die
a
using
physical
it.
addiction to.
Yeah.
Meth and coke, you have a psychological addiction to. But the alcohol, like trying to detox somebody from alcohol, that's a scary one. Bro.
It goes.
Yeah.
It's
It
a scary
permeates
one.
your whole fucking body.
Body.
My father was like a functioning alcoholic for a few years, and he quit cold turkey against the advisement of his neuro doctor. His neuro doctor said, "You're having early signs of dementia. You should not quit cold turkey of drinking because it can exacerbate the side effects in the dementia." And the day he quit. Now, retrospectively looking at his Alzheimer's now, the day he quit was when all of his symptoms went into full fucking gear.
Yeah.
Because he was dependent on this drug, and his body totally was
Well,
like...
your body
Hey, dude, who
adapts.
was that
It's
lead
like becomes
singer?
like your blood.
Yeah.
It becomes like your
singer
blood.
that
So
just died from Motorhead, Lemmy.
Yeah.
Lemmy.
He did meth all the time, and he's like, I gotta get off meth. The doctor's like, you can't. You've been doing it so long.
That's
it will
crazy.
Shock
That's
your
so
system.
It will
crazy.
shock your
Now,
body.
cannabis,
So-
nobody's ever died from it except for rappers seem to be the
No.
only people who smoke weed and get shot, right? They're
Yeah.
always
That's
like
that, but that's
smoking weed.
yeah.
Those two things are like...
Right?
I feel like those aren't mutually...
I'm just saying.
No, it's obviously
There you
excuse
go.
me.
I
Exactly.
feel like that's so different.
So yeah,
Rappers
so there
smoke weed
is
and get
no
shot.
actual lethal dose for cannabis, but I say this with a grain of salt because people are all sorts of creative and fucked up all at the same time.
One's gonna be like, I'm gonna figure it out.
That's right.
I'm going to be the first.
I'm gonna be the
Somebody is
first
going to be
month.
the first to be like, I'm going to use the most cannabis, whatever that
I'm gonna
anybody's
choke
ever
I mean,
on
how much
brownie
do you have to
Yeah.
eat? Like a pound? Put a pound in your pizza?
Right,
You know
like-
what I mean?
Well, you know what's crazy is like this drug, no matter like how much you use, you can't die from it, but you
Right.
also think you're dying 1,000 times.
Right. So that's
When you're like on an edible with too high of a dose, you're like, I died. Like the cop who called after making the brownies. My wife and I, she just died. Oh God, I just died again. Did you hear that?
who gave
awesome,
himself
though.
in. He's like,
He's like, I
yeah,
can't,
I
we
can't
ate
do
brownies.
it anymore. So wait. So really important though. There's no lethal dose, but mark my words, somebody will figure out a way to do it. Okay, so
Or
I-
something else will happen, and they'll blame it on that he was high.
Yeah, don't you think if there were lethal dose, it would have happened by now?
No,
You
because
don't?
I think people are getting smarter and more available to it, and we're figuring out how to make it stronger.
That's
The actual
true.
weed we can make stronger.
Yeah,
now,
these
right?
dab machines.
So
whew.
in the
I
70s,
remember
you
taking a
doing?
hit, and just as I inhaled, I just drooled.
Yeah, you're like,
just went,
I felt the earth fold under my feet. I'm like, I'm a taco.
yeah.
I'm a taco. Yeah.
Yeah, like in the 70s, it was 7% THC at the max. Right now, we're going upwards of 80%.
Well,
I mean,
what was
it's a
that the conversation
huge
you and
amount.
I had the other day? Like I was in awe. You were talking about the weed and the stuff. You were talking about the pills, like they have the CBD pill and they have the THC pill, and you're talking about how we like super process and miracle grow these
Yeah.
huge the marijuana today. Like you take one hit and you die.
Yeah,
basically.
yeah, like-
but what about the thing about the
the thing.
weed in
So
the
you can-
70s was like cool, and people would smoke it all day just to be
Yeah.
level, and
There-
it's like.
It
dude,
was a whole different level of marijuana we were dealing
You
with.
got
in
too
the
many
70s.
bros growing
Yeah.
it.
So
Yeah.
The bro
so
bro grow.
That
super thick leaves.
I remember you had to do like lawn maintenance on your weed because you
Yeah.
had to get out the branches and the seeds.
Sticks and the
Yeah.
seeds.
Yeah, I miss that. I want my dirty
Right?
old like grass
Mexican
weed
weed
from high school.
Yes.
I went
Yeah.
to a Vegas weed shop, and it was like I was in Foot Locker. Just dudes in fucking referee outfits.
Yeah, it's like everyone's like, so what kind of
bringing you
notes do you
samples,
want?
right?
This gives you like
All
a
right,
nice
so-
sense of euphoria.
So no lethal dose, but here's the thing. Remember, even water, if you drink too much water, you can die
yeah.
of water
Right.
poisoning.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So if something as simple as water, which is good,
Good
and healthy
point.
for you,
Good
is
point,
good.
Doc.
Listen, it's like I said from the beginning, medication, toxin. Only difference is dosage, right?
fine
So
line.
it's a fine line, but at one point we're going to figure out that line and we're going to overdo it. So it's just important to be mindful of it, okay?
What is-
Don't overdo it.
What? Take us through real quick as we're wrapping up here. What is the process
For getting in?
order to get in? And how many of these rehabs are there?
Just
Just
us.
one.
Where are you guys?
Whoa.
Culver City.
There's only
In-
one.
There's
in the
only one
entire
in the
country.
entire
Can I come
country.
visit you guys?
Absolutely.
I have a partner. We're going to be opening a dispensary
I would
soon,
love
so
for you to come
wanna
see
chat
us
with you
and
guys.
what we do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The process to getting in is to call us. You know, people find us on the internet, highsobrietytreatment.com. They can call the, you know what? I don't know the 888 number by heart, which is kind of fun.
Is this it right here? 1-800-515-3909?
Is that it on the website?
I think so.
Then that's
My
it.
buddy
Yeah.
Brian put these notes together. He's pretty
going to
good
be
at
like,
that shit.
hello.
Yeah, and and
Strained escort service. How can I?
and a lot of people call, and we get a lot of concerned parents like,
Yes.
are you just gonna let my kid be high all day? I can let him sit at home.
No,
and
we're
do
not.
that. And we're not doing that. And like that's something I really want to make.
And that's what we want to make a point on. Like it's super important.
How
like,
do you
know-
adjust? How do you feel like?
Well-
How do you find out what's the right dosage?
Right, because and I know that pot is so personalized, right? Like it is not a magic number. It's not like I give you 4
It's
of morphine and you're done.
individually. Yep.
We go through and we individually design it for you and your personal issues.
That's it. It's
That's it.
individualized. And if they want to come in, they call us at 800-515-3909.
Is that the number I just said?
Yes, but I'm just
reiterating.
I'm
You know,
reiterating.
it's like a commercial.
I know
Just wanted
I know the
credit.
direct number. I just don't know the
highsobrietystreatment.com.
800 number.
You're
which,
calling now in the next 5 minutes. You
if
get
my bosses are listening, I'm fired. No, I'm just kidding. And then they talk to me, and I'm the first one on the
How
phone.
long has this been going?
High sobriety?
Yeah.
It's been going for about 3 or 4 years, but we had to shut down to restructure the program and really put it together with a clinical piece as well as the cannabis medication piece.
How is your rehab process? How is whatever this? Listen, and what I get really upset about, and I'll ask a question about the notion. Like, you remember that was whole thing when Charlie Sheen's like, only 5% of people in 12-step programs stay sober. I go, well, that's not really success. That's not what you define success. If I'm smoking crack every day, living in a fucking dumpster, and I get sober through this thing, and I go 5 years, I go a year, and
That's a success.
And I relapse, I smoke crack, but then I'm back. Like
That's
a
dude, you want to know what?
Yeah,
It's so
that's
funny.
exactly
That's exactly what I say. I go, well, I say, how do you measure success? I go, if you think that we follow these people around with a clipboard until their dying day, seeing if they relapse, it's just, you can't do that, right?
It's such a hard thing.
But here's the thing is if we give them the tools and the skills that they go, and maybe they might go out for a day, but automatically they have those tools and they come right back the next day, I would measure that as a success.
100%.
100%. And that's the thing. And, I just want to talk about the process to coming into high sobriety for a second. So high sobriety isn't necessarily a treatment center because it is illegal to have a cannabis inclusive treatment center right now because of the insurance company.
Yeah.
So what high sobriety does is it functions as a cannabis inclusive sober living that we attach to our treatment center where people can actually get treatment and they're not thrown out because they're using cannabinoids as a medication. Well, we see things turning as well too, due to like outpatient, cannabis in California now is legal. It's like if somebody's going to an outpatient clinic to get off drugs and they have alcohol in their system, that doesn't matter because alcohol is legal. So now they're figuring it out with cannabis because that's legal now as well.
Right.
But when you're in the actual inpatient, insurance won't approve, like if they're actively using cannabinoids, right? So high sobriety has to function as a sober living that's attached to a treatment center. We
treat it like a medication. So we treat, you don't have pot on your person at all times. It's in a, locked area with the rest of your medications. You get it when you're dosed for it. You don't get it at all times. You don't get to put it in your pocket. You don't get to take it around with you everywhere. You're not high all the time. You get to go to treatments. You get to go to your intensive outpatient therapies. You come back home. You can go to AA. You get your gym workout. You do all of those things. So you've got a schedule going.
Right.
And it's just another... It's just another treatment.
It's a tool.
You
Right.
eventually
Another
get
treatment
to a placebo where you give them hey, here's your medication, and it's not just to wean them off it. So then they maybe
No, because my goal is not just to give them snake oil. My
Right,
goal is to actually give them
and jazz hands
I'm
with
not
the snake
Jazz
oil.
hands.
snake oil.
Fosse one.
No, but the purpose is to because if you believe in the fact that it's aiding you in your recovery and it's allowing you to not be angry all day and anxious all day because you're still having cravings and you're still dreaming about getting high, you're still dreaming about drinking, you're still dreaming about shooting up. That's what we're using it for. So you stop your cravings. You stop thinking about, getting high all the time. You stop that anxiety about your traumatic childhood. You stop the anxiety about your fears that you're socially awkward or that, boys might not like me. I mean, whatever that is.
Did you read my diary?
Okay.
Did you read my diary
That's
before
our
you
new
finished?
our special call.
You guys, boys just don't like me. You guys just had a bonding moment.
But I mean, like whatever that issue is, or like we have one patient right now who's, a stellar patient. He couldn't sleep at night, so we have him on an edible at nighttime to get him to sleep through the night instead of having him on Ambien so that he goes through
Has he
early.
become hooked on that edible though?
No, because he skipped a dose the other day and he was just fine. I mean, it's the concept is to get you through the day and to re-engage in your life.
Right.
You need to re-engage in life.
Right.
Yeah, get you to the base. You know what other people seemingly are able to do without it. Some people need that step, right? And that bridge therapy. This is the bridge that we're allowing them to have to kind of get back to where they need to be. And
We
that's
look
the
at it as an
important part.
exit drug, not a gateway drug, but as an exit drug to then the baseline. So
That's
to
so
get
dope.
we look at it as
I
an
like
exit.
that.
Well, and then
So-
to go back to what we were saying earlier, the whole, what is success and how do we measure success? If you've been using drugs and alcohol for 15 years,
Heroin, and now you haven't had it, and
you haven't had a sober day for you've never had more than 30 days of sobriety in 15 years.
Right.
What is success to you? I think 60 days is a success. I think 90 days is a success.
100%.
I think
100%.
120 days is a success. I think every day at that point is a success. And you just keep saying that to them, and you need to believe that. You can't just say it and be like, congratulations, you made 60 days. Woohoo. You have to really
Right.
value that. And you have to understand that totally scientifically, our brains, after using, for example, alcohol for 10 years or 15 years, it's totally rewired and it's actually shrunken.
What does meth do to you?
Well, I'll get to that in a
you
second.
you don't even have to ask that
What's
question,
meth
bro.
do to you?
But alcohol,
What's meth do to you?
alcohol will actually shrink your brain on an MRI. And if you're sober for a month, that brain will expand a little bit. And after 5 years of sobriety from alcohol, it will even expand more. Oh, wow. And so you talk about sobriety, every day counts. And every day counts to get you back into your regular functioning, decreasing the cravings, getting your life back into a place where you can have a normal interaction and maybe even get married or have kids or get a job or pursue other things
You're
in
looking
life.
right into my soul while
We
you say
want to
that.
help.
Crack
Yes.
is.
Is this?
What's
Am
crack
I
do
in
to
an
you?
intervention?
You're in it.
What's crack do to you?
Surprise.
You were wondering why we gathered you here, right? Sam.
She's reading
Sam-
from my diary and saying I'm going to get married one
What's
day.
the worst drug to your brain?
The worst drug
Well,
to your brain.
to answer your question, what does meth do to you?
Yeah.
Remember the old donut time on Highland
Yeah.
in Santa Monica? That's crystal meth, bro.
So hold on. So does
I don't
crack,
know.
meth, all them have the same effect, or is it all just like different weird shit?
You know, the funny part is if I ever meet a drug addict who only uses crack or only uses meth, I would be really surprised. Because 90% of, they're all using a mix of all of
whatever
it.
it
Yeah,
takes to
Mr.
get
Going
away.
after
Yeah,
GoDaddy.com.
they're I'm drinking.
Whatever gets those endorphins.
Yeah.
How about porn? Is that super like
Well,
addictive?
porn
Addictive?
Addictive.
Addictive.
We've got this new classification now where we have porn addicts because
Is it in the
people can't-
DSM?
I don't know if it's
Is
in the
DSM?
It's just made it yet. But you think about food addictions, right? You think about shopping addictions.
Love addictions.
Right, like sex
and
addicts,
love.
right? All of that. Anything where it's so pervasive in your life that you can't
Function.
have a functional life.
That your life is
right?
unmanageable.
Your life
I think I'm
revolves
addicted to
around those
Target.
things.
I can't go in there without
I
spending.
go in for like tampons and it's like
$200 every time.
$72. Like, son of a bitch, you got me again.
Every time I go there, it's $200.
With that.
Yep.
I'll meet you in the middle.
So just to go over, I know we have
Sorry.
to end soon, but how you get in? Basically, you call that number, and then they talk to me.
The number is again?
You
Hi,
read it,
www.highsobrietystreatment.com.
1-800-515-3909, and people usually talk to me or somebody in the admissions department. And just to go over, this is for people who have tried at other attempts and have failed. We usually don't take people under 26 because their brain hasn't fully developed yet. We
Okay.
do make some exceptions. What else? And basically, we teach people to use this as a medication and to get away from the stigma of marijuana.
I think it's wonderful. I think it's so advanced, and I think it's important. I think we're so stuck in the old way of doing shit.
Well, this is the only industry that is reluctant to change.
No, there's a lot, dude. There's a lot out there because of money and the old school ways and this.
Well, that's true. You want to know what it is? It's the treatment industry and the fucking courthouses. When was the last time you went into a courthouse and they're not still using Windows 95 as a fucking POS?
Everybody looks like they're from the 70s in courthouses.
And the DMV.
The DMV and the courthouses have not evolved.
It's the worst thing. Right. You want to know why? It's to keep us down.
No, it is.
Thank you. Welcome to Tinfoil. Have you seen any Flocka people coming in?
Flocka, Waka Flocka.
Have you heard
That's
of
Special
Flocka
K.
drunk? That crazy shit where they
Waka
go nuts?
Flocka. It's a meth.
No, but I got people coming in on Spice.
Yes, that's what I was gonna say.
Kratom's another one.
Spice. So Spice and synthetic cannabis.
Like, why are they still making drugs?
Right.
And Kratom.
Like, we have enough.
Have you seen Kratom?
After Coke, we were good.
We actually had a guy. We had a guy call us. Kratom is another synthetic form of opiate that you can drink and buy over the counter. Yeah. 5 of my friends went out. One of them died because he ended up relapsing on heroin because he got a Kratom. So we get a call. I'm in San Diego at this
Kratom?
Kratom or Kratom. I don't know. He kept calling him Kratom. I call him Kratom. Tomato. Who gives a fuck?
I thought you
something.
Kratom him like
so
a
check
dog.
It out.
I was like, what?
So he calls and he's like, we really like what you're doing with high sobriety. We're thinking about opening up a center like that, but using Kratom to treat. No. I was like, yeah, I got my own opinions on that, Holmes. Good luck to whatever you're doing, and I hope it works, and I hope it's a harm reduction model that works. They're
going to try. It's like with AA. Remember they were the people who like tried to create an AA where you could drink?
Yeah.
But there's scientific,
it's just,
research behind what you guys are doing.
Here's the science right now. The science is coming out like in states where medical marijuana is now completely legalized. You have a drop in the number of opiate deaths. In states where
5%.
And drinking.
Right. So
people are not drinking
5%.
as much.
In states where medical marijuana is completely legalized, you are now dropping the number of opiates that are being purchased through Medicare. So it's like all of these associations that we're looking at, and why is it being done that way? And why isn't the research being done this way? You know, the way that we're kind of pushing forward with. And it's really simple. It's money related, number one. Number two, if you're not federally legalized or federally allowed to do any of these things, it's impossible because I can't run research on anything that touches insurance.
Right. Your hands are tied.
Your hands
are tied. If you don't have the legislative backing, you're done.
So everybody is just looking at it peripherally right now, and they're saying, and they're making really good assumptions. They're like, yeah, it seems to be working. Yeah, it seems to be doing the right thing, but we don't actually have any hard and fast data, which is what we're now doing.
Right.
You guys doing trials and stuff?
So can I do this in my best commercial voice?
Yeah.
So if you or somebody you love struggles with an alcohol or a drug addiction, please call us at High Sobriety. We're here to help.
I love it, dude.
How was that?
That was great.
Was that a good voiceover?
Yeah,
you guys were excellent, but now it's time for everyone's favorite part of the show.
Dun, dun, dun.
Our resident critic comes in and tells us what he thinks is good and what is bad. It's time for...
Open your mind.
Aaron.
Don't be an idiot.
Open your mind. Wake up!
The Lord told me to tell you, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake. So I strongly suggest that you wake the fuck up. You filthy animal.
Aaron, thoughts?
I don't know. I don't have much to contribute here because I don't disagree with anything you've said.
So you're like you think this is viable?
I did heavily disagree with you on video games.
Okay.
Because the Japanese video game probably more than anybody, and they don't have school shootings. So
but they don't have guns.
They have the highest rate of suicide in the world.
Yeah, dude.
You got to do your
research. You don't have guns, and they're all killing themselves.
And they fly planes into boats.
Yeah.
They do kamikaze
And they
attacks.
also have severely...
in the 40s.
And they stop having sex, and they're just humping robots.
They have anime porn that is like so deeply rooted in some sexual issue.
Yeah.
And there's only one panda left.
Yeah, there's one fucking fucking
anything.
panda.
There's one panda left, but hey, sushi. Am I right?
Yeah,
Right.
right.
Pandas are Chinese.
We're all lost in translation.
No, seriously.
So, Aaron, you enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Oh wow! Congratulations. That's the first time he's gone all in on it.
Really?
Yes.
Then we did something right.
Jessimae, you were great.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming on.
great.
I'm really intrigued by this. I'm gonna hit you guys up. I'm in Marina Del Rey, so I'm gonna.
Oh, you're
scoot
right
over.
there. Yeah, please. Come
All
check
right.
us
very
out.
close.
Justin, thanks for coming on.
Sam, I'll
Dr.
do anything
Sherry,
for you.
thank you for coming on.
My
We
pleasure.
appreciate that. One more time, the website.
www.highsobrietytreatment.com.
You guys are G's. Guys, get those tickets to Cobb's. Go to San Francisco. Hang out. We're going to get weird. Come with us. Go to Cobb's. Buy your tickets now. We need 200 people to bring one friend, and we pack it out. And Live Nation will put us on tour all over the place. We love you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. I thought it was amazing. I had a great conversation.
It was great.
You guys are all great. Thanks for tuning in. And we're doing Anunnaki on Monday, homeboy. Anunnaki.
What is Anunnaki?